I picked my fiancée up from the police station at 3 a.m., the officer said. You should ask who she was with tonight. When I read the report sitting beside her, the call came at 2:41 a.m. from a block number. I almost ignored it. When I answered, a man with a calm, practiced voice said my name and asked if I was the emergency contact for Hannah Moore. He did not ask if I was awake or if I was sitting down. He told me she was at the downtown police station and that I needed to come get her. I asked why. There was a pause, just long enough to feel intentional. Then he said I should ask her myself. Before hanging up, he added one thing that stayed with me the entire drive. He said it would be a good idea to read the incident report before speaking too much. I was dressed and out the door in under 2 minutes. The drive took 8. The roads were empty in a way that made every streetlight feel like it was watching me pass. I kept replaying the call in my head, trying to fit it into something normal. A traffic stop. A misunderstanding. Maybe she had too much to drink at a work event. None of it explained why an officer would tell me to read paperwork first. The station doors opened automatically. The place smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee. Hannah was sitting on a metal bench against the far wall, hands folded neatly in her lap, posture straight. She looked calm. Not scared. Not upset. She looked like she was waiting for a delayed flight. When she saw me, she did not stand up. She smiled slightly, the kind of smile she used when she wanted something to feel smaller than it was. She said my name softly, like this was an inconvenience we were going to handle together. An officer stepped out from behind the desk and gestured for me to come over. He was older, steady, not rushed. He asked me to sit next to Hannah. As soon as I did, he handed me a stapled packet and told me to take my time. He said he would be back in a minute. Hannah leaned toward me immediately and started explaining. She said it was nothing serious, that someone overreacted, that things got blown out of proportion. She said she was glad I came. She said she knew I would understand once we talked at home. I did not answer. I opened the packet. The first page had the time and location in bold. It was not anywhere near where she told me she would be that night. The address was a residential street on the other side of the city. I kept reading. The call type was not noise complaint. It was listed as domestic disturbance with property damage. The reporting party was a man. His name was Oliver Granton. Homeowner. I stopped reading and looked at her. I did not raise my voice. I did not whisper either. I asked her who Oliver was. She blinked once and said he was a friend. She said she had gone there to talk because she was overwhelmed. She said things got heated, but nothing serious happened. She said the police misunderstood. I went back to the report. It described a shattered lamp, a cracked mirror in the hallway, and a doorframe with fresh damage. It said officers observed signs of prior visits by Hannah, including clothing and toiletries in the bathroom. It said Oliver had visible scratches on his arm. I asked her if she had been there before. She said maybe once or twice. She said she could not remember exactly. The officer came back and leaned against the counter across from us. He watched Hannah while speaking to me. He said before I signed anything, there was something I should know. He said Oliver was the one who called 911. He said Oliver identified Hannah as his fiancée during the call. Hannah's head snapped toward him. She said that was not true. She said he was lying. She said he was emotional and trying to get back at her. The officer did not react. He flipped a page in the report and pointed to a paragraph. He said Oliver had shown messages and photos on his phone, along with a key Hannah used to enter the house. He said Oliver had provided dates going back months. He said the keychain had a small silver ring attached to it. I looked down at Hannah's hand. Her engagement ring was missing. I asked her where it was. She did not answer right away. Then she said she had taken it off earlier because her fingers were swollen. The officer said the ring had been photographed at the scene. He said it was on the kitchen counter next to Oliver's phone when they arrived. I felt something shift in my chest, not sharp, not hot. It felt like a floor dropping out from under me. I asked Hannah how long this had been going on. She said it was not like that. She said Oliver had been there for her during a hard time. She said she did not think it mattered because nothing was official yet with him. She said she had been confused. I asked her if she had told Oliver we were engaged. She hesitated. Then she said she told him we were having problems. The officer cleared his throat and said there was more. He said this was not the first time police had responded to that address involving Hannah. He said previous calls had been logged as noise complaints, but her name appeared in the notes. He said during one of those visits, Hannah mentioned a former partner named Ryan who she said might show up unannounced. That was my name. I asked him what exactly she had said. He said she described Ryan as controlling and unpredictable. He said she told officers she was afraid of how Ryan might react if he found out she was seeing someone else. Hannah started talking quickly then. She said she only said that to protect herself. She said she did not think it would be written down. She said she did not mean it. I asked her when she planned to tell me. She said she was going to. She said she just needed the right moment. She said tonight was not supposed to happen like this. I looked back at the report. There was a section titled Statement of Involved Party. It was her words, summarized. It said she claimed Oliver had blocked her from leaving. It said she later admitted she had thrown the lamp during an argument. I asked her why she lied on the scene. She said she panicked. She said anyone would panic. She said she did not think it would matter once things cooled down. The officer told her the charges were minor and that she would be released once paperwork was finished. He told me I could take her home. He asked me to sign acknowledging I had read the report. I signed. We walked out together without touching. The air outside was cold enough to sting. Hannah talked the entire way to the car. She said she loved me. She said this did not change that. She said we could fix it. She said Oliver meant nothing now that everything was out. I did not answer. Halfway home, she reached into her bag and pulled out my ring. She said she must have grabbed it by mistake earlier. She said she wanted to give it back to me right away. I told her to keep it for the night. She asked what that meant. I said we would talk in the morning. She leaned back in the seat, quiet for the first time since I arrived. Her phone buzzed once. She did not check it. When we pulled into the parking lot, I realized I had been holding my breath most of the drive. I let it out slowly and shut off the engine. I understood something then that I had not allowed myself to see before. This night did not start at the police station. It ended there. And it was not an accident that I was sitting beside her while reading the report. It was the first time she had no control over the story. We did not speak when we got inside the apartment. Hannah walked straight to the bedroom, kicked off her shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed like she was waiting for instructions. I stayed in the living room, keys still in my hand, listening to the low hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. Everything felt staged, like we were both waiting for a cue that did not come. I told her to stay where she was. I did not say it loudly. I did not need to. I went to the kitchen and opened my laptop. It was not some grand plan. It was habit. Every shared account, every sync device, every cloud backup had been set up for convenience. We had always said transparency was healthy. I realized how much she had counted on that word meaning nothing. The first thing I checked was our shared calendar. There were gaps I had never questioned. Work trips that did not line up with flight confirmations. Late meetings that ended before midnight, but somehow kept her away until morning. I opened my email and searched for confirmations I remembered seeing months ago. Some of them were gone. I called out to her and asked when she had last been at Oliver's place. She said she did not know. She said it had blurred together. I asked her to be specific. She said maybe once a week. Then she changed it to once every couple of weeks. Then she stopped answering altogether. I pulled up location history on my phone. I had never looked at it before. I scrolled back months, watching the same address light up again and again like a pulse. Always late. Always overnight. Always on days she said she was somewhere else. I asked her if she had ever slept there. She said yes, but not recently. I asked her if she had ever planned to stop. She said she thought it would end on its own. I stood up and walked into the bedroom. She looked small sitting there, knees pulled in, arms wrapped around herself. It would have been easy to feel sorry for her. It would have been easy to soften. Instead, I asked her the one question I needed answered. I asked her who she told the truth to. She looked at me like she did not understand. I asked her who, in her life, knew about both of us. She swallowed and said no one. I told her that was not true. I told her Oliver knew about me, even if he did not know my name. I told her the police knew about me because she made sure they did. I told her the only person who did not know was the one who had built his life around her. She said she did not mean to hurt me. She said she was trying to keep things from falling apart. I asked her what she thought marriage was supposed to be. She said it was safety. That word stayed with me. Safety. Not partnership. Not trust. Not love. Safety. I went back to the living room and opened her tablet. She had forgotten to lock it. Messages loaded instantly. There were dozens of conversations, most of them mundane. Work. Friends. Family. Then I found one thread archived under a single letter. Oh, the messages were not romantic in the way movies make them. They were practical. Schedules. Complaints. Reassurances. Plans. Photos of meals she cooked in our kitchen, sent to him with captions about missing him. Photos of her wearing my ring, sent to him with explanations about why it was complicated. One message stood out. It was dated 3 weeks earlier. She had written that if things went wrong, she would handle it. She had written that I would not cause problems because I never did. I asked her what she meant by that. She said she meant I was reasonable. I asked her why she told the police I was unpredictable. She said she panicked. She said she thought it would protect her if things escalated. I asked her protect her from what? She said she did not know. She said she just wanted options. That was when it clicked. This was not about choosing between two men. This was about keeping doors open. This was about making sure she always landed somewhere soft. I scrolled further. There were voice notes she had sent to Oliver late at night. I did not play them. I did not need to. The timestamps were enough. I asked her if Oliver knew she was still living with me. She said yes. I asked her if he knew we were still planning a wedding. She hesitated. Then she said she told him it might not happen. I asked her if she told him why. She said I was struggling. I laughed then. Not because it was funny, because it was so calculated it felt unreal. I asked her how long she planned to keep this going. She said she did not know. She said she thought eventually something would force a decision. Something had. Her phone buzzed again. This time she checked it. Her face changed as she read whatever was on the screen. She did not show it to me. I asked her if it was Oliver. She said yes. I asked her what he wanted. She said he was asking if she was safe. I asked her what she was going to tell him. She said she did not know. I told her to answer honestly for once. She typed for a long time. Then she put the phone down without sending anything. I asked her if Oliver knew she had accused me of being dangerous. She said no. I asked her if she understood what that could have done to me. She said she had not thought that far. I sat down across from her and told her exactly what that kind of statement meant. I told her it meant every future interaction would be filtered through that narrative. I told her it meant if Oliver had decided to push, if he had decided to escalate, I could have been the one explaining myself in a station that night. She started crying then. Not loudly, quietly, controlled. I waited until she stopped. I asked her if she had ever loved Oliver. She said she did not know. I asked her if she loved me. She said yes, immediately, too quickly. I asked her what loving me had looked like over the past year. She did not answer. I stood up and went to the closet. I pulled out the folder with our wedding paperwork. Deposits, contracts, guest lists, everything we had built toward a date that suddenly felt fictional. I placed it on the table between us. I told her this was over. She said we could still fix it. She said people survive worse. I told her this was not a mistake. This was a system. I told her she had built a life that worked for her as long as no one compared notes. She asked me what I was going to do. I told her I was going to protect myself. That was when she said something that confirmed everything I had already seen. She said I did not need to make things harder than they were. She said we could keep things quiet. She said there was no reason to involve anyone else. I asked her who she was worried about. She said everyone. I realized then that the fear in her voice was not about losing me. It was about losing control of the story. I told her to pack a bag. She asked where she was supposed to go. I told her that was not my problem. She packed slowly, watching me the entire time like she was waiting for me to change my mind. When she reached for the engagement ring on the nightstand, I stopped her. I told her to leave it. She left it where it was. As she walked out the door, her phone buzzed again. She answered this time. I heard Oliver's voice through the speaker, asking what happened, asking why the police had called him back. Hannah said she would explain later. The door closed behind her. I sat alone in the apartment, surrounded by a life that suddenly felt like evidence. I knew this was not the end. It was only the point where her version of events stopped being the only one that mattered. And I knew, without doubt, that whatever came next would move fast. I slept for less than an hour. Not because my mind was racing, but because it went quiet in a way that felt wrong. When morning light leaked through the blinds, the apartment looked staged, like a showroom after closing. Everything was where it always was, and none of it belonged to the life I thought I had. I made coffee and opened my laptop again. Not to hunt, not to investigate, to understand what exposure I had. That was the frame I kept myself inside. Exposure, risk, damage. The first thing I did was export copies of everything I had already seen. Location history, message threads, calendar discrepancies. I saved them offline. I did not annotate or interpret. I kept it clean. Facts did not need decoration. At 7:18 a.m., my phone rang. Hannah's name came up. I let it ring until it stopped. At 7:24, Oliver's name appeared. I did not answer that either. At 7:31, a number I did not recognize called twice back to back. I picked up the second time. It was Hannah's mother. Her voice sounded tight, polite, already braced for resistance. She asked if Hannah was with me. She asked if everything was all right. She said Hannah had come home in the middle of the night upset and would not explain what happened. I told her Hannah was not with me. I told her we were no longer together. I told her I would call back later and explain. I did not raise my voice. I did not offer details. I said enough to make sure no one filled the silence with assumptions. I hung up and watched the call log for a few seconds. Then I did something Hannah never expected me to do. I called the police station. I asked to speak with the officer who handled the report. When he came on the line, I asked one question. I asked whether Hannah's statement from the night before included any allegation of threats or intimidation directed at Oliver by me. There was a pause. Not the uncomfortable kind. The careful kind. He said there was a supplementary note. He said it had been flagged but not escalated. He said Hannah mentioned being afraid of how I would react if I found out she had been seeing someone else. I asked if she named me. He said yes. I asked if she accused me of anything specific. He said no direct threats, no physical allegations, but the implication was documented. I thanked him and ended the call. That was the moment I understood how close I had come to stepping into something irreversible. One emotional confrontation. One raised voice at the wrong person. One visit to the wrong address. That was all it would have taken. At 9:02 a.m., Oliver showed up. He did not knock. He rang the bell once, then again, then knocked like he owned the place. I did not open the door. I stood on the other side and listened to him talk through it. He said my name. He said we needed to talk. He said there had been a misunderstanding. I opened the door just enough to step into the hallway and closed it behind me. He looked nothing like the version I had imagined. He was dressed for work, buttoned down, clean shoes, calm. He did not look like a threat. He looked like someone who thought he was still in control. He said Hannah had told him we were broken up months ago. He said she told him the engagement was a formality that never went anywhere. He said he did not know she was still living with me full-time. I asked him why he called the police. He said she threw a lamp at him. He said he had never seen her like that. He said he panicked. He said he thought she might accuse him of something if he did not get ahead of it. That sentence stayed with me. Get ahead of it. I asked him if Hannah ever talked about me. He said she talked about me constantly. He said she described me as someone who needed structure, someone who did not handle surprises well. He said she told him I would react badly if I knew everything. I asked him if she ever told him I was dangerous. He hesitated. Then he said she said I could be unpredictable. I asked him if she ever said she felt unsafe. He nodded. He said she framed it as emotional pressure, not physical fear. He said she said I would not let her leave easily. I told him to leave. He said we should compare notes. I told him we already had. He just did not know it yet. He looked at me like he wanted to argue, then like he wanted to negotiate. Instead, he asked if I was going to cause problems. I told him the only thing I was interested in was making sure nothing false followed me out of this. He left without another word. I went back inside and locked the door. Then I opened Hannah's email again, not to read old messages, but to check drafts. That was where I found it. A partially written email addressed to her supervisor. The subject line referenced a personal safety concern. The body was vague, unfinished, but clear enough. It framed a situation where she might need flexibility due to stress at home. It positioned me as the source without naming me directly. There was another draft addressed to her sister. It talked about needing a place to stay if things blew up. There was a third draft that made my stomach drop. It was addressed to herself. Notes, bullet points, a timeline. It outlined what she would say if I confronted Oliver, what she would say if I showed up unannounced, when to call for help, when to involve police. This was not panic. This was preparation. At noon, Hannah texted me. She said Oliver came by the apartment. She said she hoped I had not said anything to him. She said she was trying to calm him down. I did not respond. At 12:17, she sent another message. She said we needed to talk before things got worse. She said people were asking questions. I replied once. I told her we would communicate through text only. I told her to stop contacting my family. I told her not to come back to the apartment. She replied immediately. She asked if I was threatening her. I stared at that message longer than anything else I had seen. That was the pivot. That was the line she was testing. I replied carefully. I told her I was setting boundaries. I told her to respect them. She did not respond. An hour later, her sister texted me. She asked if Hannah was safe. She said Hannah was scared. She said Hannah told her I was angry and unpredictable. I took screenshots of the police report and sent them without commentary. The reply came back a minute later. A single sentence. She said she had no idea. By late afternoon, the story Hannah had tried to control was no longer hers alone. She called twice. I did not answer. She sent a voice note. I did not listen. I contacted the wedding venue and requested written confirmation of cancellation terms. I did not cancel yet. I wanted documentation. I contacted the bank and asked about separating joint accounts. I asked what information they needed. I did not accuse. I asked procedural questions. At 6:43 p.m., Hannah showed up again. This time she knocked. I opened the door and stood where she could see me but not enter. She looked exhausted. Her confidence had drained out of her face. She said we needed to talk in person because texts were being misunderstood. I told her she had misunderstood me all year. She said she never planned to hurt me. She said she just wanted stability. I told her stability built on misrepresentation was not stability. It was leverage. She asked me what I wanted. I told her I wanted the truth to stop moving. She started crying again. She said she felt trapped. She said she did not know how to choose without destroying everything. I told her she already had. She asked if I was going to ruin her life. I told her I was not doing anything. I told her she had documented enough on her own. She left without another word. That night, I slept. Not deeply, but enough. I knew the next phase would not be emotional. It would be administrative. And that was where she had no defense left. The morning after she left for the second time, the apartment finally felt quiet. Not peaceful. Finished. I woke up before my alarm and sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad I had not used in years. I wrote one line at the top and underlined it twice. End this cleanly. That became the rule I did not break. At 8:12 a.m., I called the wedding venue. I did not tell a story. I did not explain. I asked for the cancellation clause and the timeline for written confirmation. The coordinator sounded surprised, then careful. She asked if everything was all right. I said plans had changed. She emailed the paperwork while we were still on the phone. At 8:34, I called the bank. I asked what was required to separate joint accounts when an engagement ended. The woman on the line explained the process slowly, as if she assumed I might argue. I did not. I asked her to send everything in writing. She did. At 9:01, I forwarded copies of the police report to my personal email and stored them in a folder labeled with the date. I did the same with screenshots of Hannah's messages, the drafts I found, the location logs. I did not add commentary. I did not highlight. I did not interpret. I saved exactly what existed. At 9:40, Hannah texted again. She asked if we could meet with a counselor. She said we did not need to rush decisions. She said emotions were still high. I replied once. I told her the engagement was over. I told her future communication would be limited to logistics. I told her not to come back to the apartment without arranging a time. She did not respond. At 10:18, her father called. I answered. He did not raise his voice. He did not accuse me. He asked what happened. He said Hannah was devastated. He said she claimed everything had spiraled out of control. I told him I would send documentation. I asked if he was willing to review it before forming an opinion. There was a long pause. Then he said yes. I sent the police report. I sent the timestamps. I sent nothing else. An hour later, he called back. His voice had changed. He did not ask questions. He did not defend her. He said he needed time to process. He said he was sorry. That was the first apology I received, and it did not come from Hannah. By midday, the story she had tried to manage was already breaking down. Her sister texted again, this time to apologize for reaching out earlier. A mutual friend asked if the wedding was still on. I answered simply. I said it was canceled. I did not elaborate. At 1:22 p.m., Oliver emailed me. The subject line said he wanted clarity. The body of the email was polite and self-protective. He said he never intended to cause problems. He said he believed Hannah's version of events. He said he hoped things would not escalate. I replied with one sentence. I told him not to contact me again. I told him any further communication should go through legal counsel if necessary. He did not reply. At 2:05, Hannah sent a longer message. She said she never thought I would end things this way. She said she believed I would fight for us. She said she felt discarded. I read it twice. Then I archived it. At 3:30, I met with a lawyer. Not to sue. Not to threaten. To understand exposure. He reviewed the police report and the messages. He told me I had done the right thing by not engaging emotionally. He told me documentation mattered more than intent in situations like this. He told me to keep everything and to limit contact. I paid him for an hour and left. At 5 o'clock, Hannah arrived to collect her things. She did not bring anyone. She did not cry. She moved carefully through the apartment like she was afraid of triggering something. I stayed in the living room while she packed from the bedroom. We spoke only to coordinate space. When she reached for the engagement ring on the counter, she stopped. She looked at it for a long time. Then she left it where it was. She asked if she could take the photo albums. I said yes. She asked if I hated her. I said no. She asked what I felt. I told her I felt relieved I did not find out later. She nodded like she expected that answer. Then she left. That night, I canceled the wedding formally. The deposits were gone. The emails went out. The calendar cleared. I watched dates disappear from my phone like they had never mattered. 2 days later, the consequences reached her in ways she did not anticipate. Her supervisor asked for clarification about the drafts she never sent. The police report existed, and the narrative she had prepared no longer fit. Her parents confronted her with facts she could not talk around. Oliver stopped answering her messages entirely. He had his own reputation to protect. She tried to call again. I did not answer. By the end of the week, the apartment was rearranged. Furniture shifted. Closet space emptied. It looked like a place that belonged to one person again. The engagement ring stayed in a drawer until I decided what to do with it. It was no longer a symbol. It was an object. I did not feel victorious. I did not feel destroyed. I felt like someone who had stepped off a path that would have collapsed under him later. The last message I received from Hannah came a week after the arrest. She said she never meant for it to go this far. She said she wished I had handled things differently. I did not reply, because the truth was simple and final. Things did not go too far. They went exactly where they had been heading the entire time. And the only difference between her plan and the outcome was that this time, the story did not belong to her alone.
The time when everyone was talking about, like, you need to go out and riz.
Oh, charisma.
Charisma. Yeah. People were like, you need to go out and you need to
Okay.
have charisma, like go out and riz people. And I was like, I have no idea how to do that. Like you need to have business riz apparently.
Oh.
And I think when we look at you, obviously I would say you're like the CEO of having business riz, like you're the riz master. And I want to know.
Riz master.
You
I like
are
it.
definitely the riz master.
We'll get you a sign.
Okay. Thank you.
But where did you develop that confidence like so early on to go into that room and be like, I want this, like, this is my schedule. How can we make this work?
Right. Well, I think you have to leave your ego at the door. I was